So, whenever we talk about homeostasis means the conditions which basically in which our body maintain those internal environment, inclusive the blood glucose level, the blood fluid level, the body temperature, the carbon dioxide concentration, oxygen concentration. I mean, there are many things in our body. There are many processes going in our body at the same time. So these things have to be maintained. For example, if we are doing exercise, then while doing the exercise, aerobic respiration rate it's basically gets higher, and due to the rate of respiration getting higher. Carbon dioxide is being produced, so presence of carbon dioxide in our body makes the blood pH low, because carbon dioxide along with the plasma makes carbonic acid, which may lowers down the blood's pH. And as you know that pH has always detrimental effects on the enzymes and proteins. Now we are but in our blood we have several enzymes which are involved in blood clotting as well. There we have different proteins inclusive antibodies and hormones and enzymes as well. So these proteins can be disturbed, their shape, their folding can be disturbed with a change in the pH. So that's why blood pH has to be maintained, same as the osmotic pressure. The water potential of the blood has to be maintained as well. Like in diabetes patient, what happens that the glucose level is not controlled. So we are going to study diabetes as well in the homeostasis. In homeostasis we have to previously we used to have the topic control of body fluids inclusive the water level, controlling water amount in the body, but now it's no more the part of our syllabus. We only have to study how the temperature and how the glucose level in blood is controlled. uh, First, and in homeostasis you must know the definition as well, because sometime they may ask you what is homeostasis, or sometime even as in P1 they can basically ask you the definition of that. So you must know that how it is homeostasis. Now I have pasted here the syllabus for the homeostasis subtopic. As you can see that we should be able to describe that what is actually homeostasis. Stasis means constant, static means the conditions remains constant, right? So a process through which the body internal environment, body conditions remain constant, right? So this is actually the homeostasis. Then we would be discussing that what is actually the negative feedback and how the body controls its internal environment by using the negative feedback, and what are the set points, right? This is what we are going to discuss first. Then today, inshallah ta'ala, we will be discussing how the body controls the temperature, right? And this would be involving one of the sense organ, which we have already studied eye. Now we would be discussing skin as well. That what is the structure of the human skin, what are the layers, what are the structures that are present in the human skin, and how they are working in controlling the temperature. So this is going to be there in our lecture. Now let's talk about, we have already discussed with the homeostasis. As you can see with this diagram, right? You must have seen this diagram in your course book as well. That there are multiple things going in our body. That brain is actually controlling every function, and especially for homeostasis, our hypothalamus, a part of the brain, is quite involved in it, because it is a control center for receiving those signals for. If there is any change in the internal environment. Liver, which is actually play a very important role in regulating glucose level, because as you know that in liver the cells convert the glucose into glycogen. So if there is an extra glucose in the blood, so the liver cells convert it into glycogen, and when there is a shortage of glucose in the blood, this glycogen is converted into glucose, which we shall discuss in detail when we will be discussing homeostasis or the negative feedback for blood glucose level. Then skin, which is involving in temperature, and of course about the lungs. because lungs are one of the excretory organ, as when there is a lots of carbon dioxide being produced during respiration, when we are having exercise or any kind of activity, then these lungs play an important role. Like say if there is an anaerobic respiration, lactic acid is producing, then these lungs basically breathe in more oxygen to pay the oxygen debt. So everything, yes, kidneys are involving into the water and salts levels, because we haven't done the excretion yet, but perhaps you people might have done it earlier, right, in your institution. So kidney play an important role in reabsorbing if there is a shortage of water in your body. Let's say that if you are fasting, if you haven't taken any water, or if you haven't eaten any well, because salts are very important as well. So these salts and water, basically it's absorbed by the kidney and it is not wasted as urine, so that your body may not have a shortage of water. uh, you can also see here that the tissue fluid is also playing an important role for controlling the composition, right, the composition in a way that that the cells may get oxygen and glucose on time, and there may not be those conditions in which will be detrimental for the enzymes. So let's discuss about the negative feedback first. So negative feedback is basically the whenever we have to say that our body has to maintain the internal environment. So the mechanism which is basically responsible for doing this is called negative feedback, right? And this is actually the correction mechanism. This is termed as a correction mechanism. How it is a correction mechanism? That whenever now our body has or a set point, set values, normal values for everything, like that our body has some values for glucose level as well, that normally in fasting what should be the values, normally in random what should be the values. Our body has also a temperature value as well, that what should be the temperature during a normal person, what should be the temperature range for a person, that the temperature should not go down less than 34 degrees Celsius and should not exceed 38 degrees Celsius, because that would be not good for the body itself, body functions as well. So negative feedback is basically the correction mechanism which is carried out by with the help of the nerve impulse, as well with the help of the structures as well, to correct if the value of anything like glucose level, temperature, or the water level goes down or goes up. It's not necessary that if something is getting lower, then a correction mechanism is occurring. But if even something going up, then the correction mechanism is occurring. So perhaps you people might know about the thermostats in your air conditioners, in your refrigerators, right? So there in even in your ovens, heat ovens. Now, what is the purpose of the thermostat? Therm means heat. Now, stat means to remain constant. For example, if we set the temperature in our AC 26, it means that that the time the condenser, the compressor will keep on turn on till the temperature is maintained 26 degrees Celsius, and then it will shut down, because now the temperature is maintained. Because if the compressor is keep turned on, the temperature will going down of the room, which you would not want. You want the temperature to remain 26 degrees Celsius. So once the temperature is maintained 26 degrees Celsius, there are the sensors in the your air conditioner unit, and it senses that the temperature is now 26, so it shuts off. And for example, if you are keep for example, if the temperature becomes higher because you just opened the door, right, so the heat from the outside uh, enters into the room which was cooled to 26 degrees Celsius. So now the temperature has risen to 28 degrees Celsius. As soon as the temperature risen uh, up the 26 degrees Celsius, the thermostat starts to, in the thermostat senses it, right? And the compressor starts turn on, and then AC starts to again cool down your uh, room. Now, what happens during the night time when you people are sleeping? So the rooms are not, they are not shutting off or on like that, right? Nobody's coming on, nobody's coming inside and going outside, so usually the temperature is maintained. So that's why during the night time, in the late night hours, the compressor is usually off. But whenever the people are going inside and outside, because the temperature is continuously going high, so that's why the compressor is kept turned on during the daytime. So actually this concept has been there in our human body when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human body, right? So our body has a mechanism of thermostat as well. The body function, the body has to maintain a temperature, uh, right? The body, it has to maintain the temperature within a range. And now what is the best temperature that has to be maintained? It is 37 degrees Celsius, right? Usually the normal human body temperature, it varies between 35.8 to 37.7, but our body does not want it to go below 34 degrees Celsius or above 40 degrees Celsius. Now let's say that if our temperature goes down or goes above, the correction mechanism starts right away. Now starting this, the time, the word, the function of this mechanism is actually to make the values go back to the set point, right? So this is actually the negative feedback, and once the set point value is achieved, the mechanism stop, right? So this is what you need to remember. Like, let me show you a flow chart uh, for this, right? And there are certain hormones are also included for this correction mechanism, right? So this is actually the negative feedback. Just wait a while, let me see. So as you can see that there is a change in our body, in temperature or in glucose, in anything, right? So if there is any change that is detected by your CNS, right? Now this change, basically, now corrective mechanism activated. Now this is actually the message is sent from the CNS, that is our central nervous system brain, and usually brain is involved, not the spinal cord. So the brain basically instruct the structures which are responsible to correct it. Then the correction mechanism goes on, the conditions, they are returned to the set point. Now for example, if your temperature has risen to 39 degrees Celsius from 37. Now 37 to 39, if the temperature, I mean, if you have a fever, right? So CNS, your central nervous system, your brain detects the change. Hypothalamus, which is there, which is a part of your brain, it detects the temperature change. Now, you know, too much heat is not good for the enzymes as well. As you know, that enzyme works best at an optimum temperature, and 39 is too hot for them, so they may get denature. So this temperature has to be cooled down to 37. So your brain, hypothalamus, basically detects the change in the temperature, then it sends message to the structures present in our skin to basically remove this heat, to basically increase the heat loss from your body. And once the heat is lost and your temperature returns to 37 degrees Celsius, right? Then the mechanism switch off. Now the most important thing is that the whatever the mechanism that started to correct the change, it never goes on, it is never switched on throughout the time. Means it does not switched on 24 by 7. It is switched on when it is needed, and once the change has been corrected, when the values have been back returned to the set point, right? Either the values had been like that, so either the values have were increased so that they're back to the set points, or decreased if they are back to the set point, it at this time the correction mechanism will stop. This is what you need to understand, that homeostasis is important in a way that it basically makes the conditions in your body to go back to the initial conditions, go back to the set points. And this is actually the homeostasis, and that's why we are endotherms. So we are the warm blooded animals. We mammals are warm blooded. Why we are called warm blooded? Because our body temperature is remain constant, right? It doesn't change with the environment. Although if there is very cold outside or is very hot outside, the temperature the heat may be basically, for example, if it is very hot outside, the heat may radiate inside our body. Or if it is very cold outside, the heat inside us may radiate outside. But actually our body has a mechanism, our body has a thermostat which makes the temperature to remain constant. Same for the glucose level and fluid water level as well, right? So I hope by this explanation you must have understood what is actually the negative feedback, right? And this negative feedback, sometime they ask you to write down the definition for this negative feedback, right? For which you should be able to write it down, that it is a corrective mechanism through which the body maintains its homeostatic balance by keeping certain physiological factors such as temperature, blood glucose level, or osmotic pressure of the blood within the set limits when it deviates away from it, right? So this is what you need to remember, and this is actually the definition of the negative feedback, right? And I would suggest you to remember this definition, because certain times they may ask a 2 to 3 marker definition, they ask you for the negative feedback. So memorizing the definitions is important, right? So, negative feedback, you need to memorize this definition, that this is actually the mechanism in which, if the body conditions are deviated from the set points, they are basically corrected, and then the corrective mechanism switches off. This is what you need to remember, right? So, right now, let's proceed towards the temperature control, right? So, temperature. How does our body controls the temperature? Um, by negative feedback. Now, there are certain structures which are present in our skin, and for this, you need to understand the structure of the skin. Right, you need to study first how your skin, which is an organ, right? It's not a tissue, it's not a it's made up of obviously cells, but there are different type of tissues present there. The muscles are there, different epidermal tissues are there, right? Your nerve cells are there. Yes, exactly. Skin is the largest organ of our body because your whole body is covered with the skin. So that's why it's the largest organ of your body, right? So that's I need to share with you the diagram of the skin, so that we may discuss first, we may get familiarized with the structures that are present in the skin which are involved in the temperature regulation or the temperature control, right? And you should be able to remember the names of the structure, right? Because they may be there in your P2 or P1 for asking that what are their functions, what are their names, right? So let's start. As you can see that this is basically the section of the skin. So there are certain layers in our skin, right? This is the upper epidermal layer, right? You could see that. Now this part of the skin usually have the dead cells, right? Because the cells in the basal layer, they grow so fast. Now this is the skin layer, where the basal layer and which the cells grow fast. So after because since they grow fast, so that's why they move upward, right? And that's why you have some dead skin over your upper part of the skin, right? And right, and in our skin basically, there are basically these, the basal layer push the older cell near the surface now, right? And that's why we can see that the dead cells are shedding at the same rate, but on the same time new cells are making up, right? Now you can also see in this layer, uh, you can see this here. Now we can see our hair, our mammal's body is basically covered with hair or fur, right? So you can see this hair as well, but this hair is not only you could find at the surface of your skin, but actually this hair has a hair follicle inside your skin, right? So this is the hair follicle. So even if you remove the hair from the upper part of your skin, after few days it starts to grow, but because actually it has not removed from the follicle. So if the hair is removed from this part, it won't grow again. But if you remove it from here, so that's why the cells are continuously growing, so that's why hair also grow. So this hair, now these hair have a very important role in maintaining the temperature as well. Not in human actually, but in other mammals it plays an important role when we will be discussing, right? Now this hair is basically attached with a muscle which is called hair erector muscles. As you can see in the diagram, that this is called the hair erector muscle, right? This is the hair erector muscle. And then you can see some of the glands as well, right? We have this sweat gland in there. Now our body, our skin sweat, right? Now there is a fluid that comes out of our body, which is called sweat. Now sweat plays an important role in lowering down the temperature of our body, right? And the glands which produces the sweat, right, it's light underneath the skin, right? And there is a duct through which this sweat moves onto the surface of the skin, right? There are the pores through which, right? Then we have also some sebaceous glands as well, but since sebaceous glands are not there in temperature regulation, so it's not, you do not need to discuss it actually. Now you can see some blood capillaries as well, right? These blood capillaries, we have different blood vessels as well. The blood vessels that basically supply blood to the cells of your body, right? Uh, all right. And these are some of the blood capillaries. Now we have many sensors in our body. We have some nerve endings as well. We have many receptor cells. Our skin has many receptors. They can sense pressure, they can sense temperature, right? There are many sensors, receptor cells for each of, wait a minute. Right? Although I have shown you a very simplified diagram of skin, which has only the structures which are associated in temperature control, but I can show you another diagram as well, in which you can see some other receptor cells as well. So, not only relying on the diagram that I have shared with you, right? Earlier, you can also see this skin structure as well, where you can see different sensors, different receptor cells as well, so that you may get an idea that our skin has many thing in it. You could see that this is one of the nerve ending. Now this is the nerve ending for the pressure. Now if something, how do you feel that if your hand is basically is under something, the pressure receptor, if how do you feel the touch? The touch is basically whenever someone touches you, right? This is basically sensed by the receptor cells, nerve endings which are present inside your body in the dermis layer. Now this is the epidermis, this is the dermal layer, right? So this is the pressure receptor, right? And This is a nerve ending which is basically present at the upper layer of for the temperature. Now this actually detects the temperature, that if the temperature is going up or down, right? Now there are, as you can see, this is the same hair erector muscles. This is a hair. Right now the nerve endings are connected with everything because our nerves is connected with everything. Now these are some blood vessels which are there, right? This is the sweat gland, right, and associated with the capillaries. Now blood capillaries and blood vessels, they are supplied to everything. Now there is an organ for the touch as well. This is for the pressure, this is for the temperature, right? And you can also see here that the different, our body, our skin has many sensors. We will be only discussing the thermoreceptors, which actually detects the change in temperature, either the temperature going down or high, right? Apart from that, we can see a layer of the fat cells. Now you know that the cells that store fat are called fat cells, and together the fat cells make an adipose tissue. Now, specialized cells, when they group together, perform the same function. They are called tissue. Now, this is the basically the specialized cells of the adipose, which is called adipose tissue, and this acts as an insulator. Now, you know what? In our body, heat is produced by respiration. Whenever our every cell is respiring, it is producing energy by breaking down glucose in the presence of oxygen. Now, respiration is an exothermic reaction, it releases heat. Now, this heat is carried forward by the blood and it is distributed to all part of our body so that the temperature of the body remains constant. As you know that we require an optimum temperature for the performance of enzymes, so this temperature has to be remained optimum, so that's why heat is produced, right? So this heat does not have to be lost from our body. So in order to basically keep the heat inside our body and to reduce the excessive loss of heat from our body, there are the adipose tissues. Now those people who are you could say that who are chubby, who have much fat content in their body, they usually feel hot all the times. Why is that so? Because there is lots of fat inside their skin. So because of having lots of fat inside their skin, basically it reduces the heat loss, due to which during the summers the body is unable to increase the heat loss which is required. Yes, you may. Yes, you may leave. I'm recording the class. You may see the recorded class because I'll continue it till 6. So this is what you need to remember, that we basically, this adipose tissues plays an important role. So during the winter, when the temperature outside is cold and inside it is warmer, so heat moves from the higher place to lower place, so you have more heat inside your body, and if the temperature outside your body is colder, right, so this heat may be basically radiated from to outside of the body. So in order to reduce the heat loss, this adipose tissues play an important role during the winter. So the skinny people, those people who are very skinny, who are very less fat, they usually feel cold a lot, just because there is less layer, or you could say a very thin layer of adipose tissues inside their skin, which is not sufficient to reduce the heat loss, to insulate the heat, to keep the heat inside the body, right? So this adipose tissue has a very important role. And we have also discussed the role of the lipids during our topic of biological molecules and in human nutrition, that why lipids are important. So one of the role of the lipids is to make adipose tissues for reducing heat loss, and they and our skin, there is a layer of the fat, right? So these are some of the structures. Basically, I discussed with you the sebaceous gland. You can see these sebaceous glands here as well. Now these sebaceous glands have the secretion oil, which basically keeps your skin hydrated, right? So those people who have faulty sebaceous gland, they have a cracky skin, right? uh, So I hope, and here in this diagram, this is the adipose tissue layer, fat cells are there. So I hope I have discussed all the structures which are present here. So we will be discussing the role of these structure, the role of the sweat glands, the role of this hair erector muscle, the role of these blood capillaries. Now you could see that these blood capillaries look different. So we will be discussing their structure as well, that how they are different, right? So there can be two scenarios, right? If temperature is increased, right, or the temperature is gets lower, right? So temperature inside gets lower, or temperature gets higher inside your body, gets higher. Now there, these are the two situations. For each situation, these structures, now what are the structures that are involved? You need to remember the name of the structure. First is the sweat gland, right? Second is the hair erector muscle, right? Third is the basically your blood arteriole, right? Arteriole, and we will discuss that how it constrict and how it basically uh, dilates to reduce or to increase the heat loss, right? And then we have the adipose tissue layer. Now these are the structures which play a role in when, if it is getting higher inside your body, the temperature is getting higher, right? So these structures basically work together to increase the heat loss. They just want the heat to go out of your body so that the temperature may get down, right? And if let's say that the temperature is getting lower, for example, if it is quite cold outside, right, so you are having a heat loss, and due to which the temperature inside your body is getting down. So in order to increase the temperature inside, these structures do something. They play a role to basically get the temperature higher. They make the temperature higher. So there are let me show you how it is done. Right, I am showing you one of the flow chart, and this will basically help you out to understand it very clearly, that what happens when there is the temperature going down or going up. Now see, this is the normal body temperature, no change, normal body temperature. Now let's say for example that there is a decrease. Okay, let's say that there is an increase in, let's start from here. Okay, the cycles starts from here. Now there is an increase in body temperature. Let's say that if you're having fever, or let's say that if you're doing exercise, due to which your body respiration rate has increased, so lots of heat is being produced, and that's why the body temperature is increasing. That's why whenever you walk, whenever you run, whenever you are doing any exercise, you start to feel hot, right? Because respiration makes not only the energy to produce, but also heat is also produced, right? So this increase in body temperature, now what happens, the thermoreceptors, now there are special receptor cells which we, if you remember, that we discussed that the receptor cells are those specialized cells which basically sense the change in temperature. So these thermoreceptors were in the hypothalamus, and in skin they detect. Now where in the skin, let me show you here. These, this is the nerve ending, right? And this is basically in this diagram, and in this diagram you could see that these are the nerve endings for the thermoreceptors. So these thermoreceptors, not only in the hypothalamus, right, but also in the skin, they detect that there is a change in the temperature and the temperature has increased. Now, due to the increase in the temperature, what are the effects that you basically observe? You observe that whenever there is very hot outside, or whenever you are exercising, or whenever you have fever, you start to sweat. You're sweating increased, right? And vasodilation, whenever it is very hot outside or if you're running, you feel, you see yourself that your skin is getting more red. So whenever it is very hot outside, you see that your face becomes quite red, because the rate of the flow of the blood just underneath your skin is increased, right? How it is increased, this is what we are going to discuss by vasodilation, right? And then you can also see that the hair that are there in your skin, they lie flat. Now how it is doing that, now I will be basically discussing each of these three things, each of these three mechanism, each of these processes that are making the temperature to go down, from increase to go down. Means sweating, whenever you sweat, now you must know that sweating is a cooling process, right? Sweating is a cooling process. How it is cooling process? It is a cooling process because whenever you sweat, so the water, that is basically the fluid that is released from the sweat pores, it is evaporated. And evaporation is a cooling process actually, right? So this is a cooling process by the evaporation of sweat. Now, as you know that evaporation is a cooling process, how? Because the molecules of the liquid, whenever they evaporate, they takes the heat of the surface, right? Even the molecules at room temperature, they can evaporate. You do not need to provide them heat to change into the gaseous state, right? So the molecules evaporate at the room temperature. And when they are evaporating at room temperature, they actually take the heat from the surface, right? And this uptake of the heat from the surface makes the basically skin cooler, right? So whenever our sweat dries up, you feel cool. So have you ever noticed that whenever you sweat, right, you starts to feel, basically after that you starts to feel colder, right? So this is what so that's why sweating helps you in making you feel cooler. So whenever your temperature is increased, brain sends the message to the sweat gland. Now what is happening? See, receptor cells detect temperature increase, right? Right now, CNS sends the message to effectors. And what are effectors? They are muscles or glands. So glands, in this case, which gland? Sweat gland, right? Sweat glands, and they start to secrete soil. CSM to effector sweat glands. And this actually, so CNS starts to send the message to the effectors. Now this is, I am sweat gland, right? And sweat gland to release sweat. So glands, which are the effectors? So sweat glands secrete sweat. Sweat glands secrete sweat, right? And when the sweat is evaporated, temperature lowers down, lowers down, right? And once the temperature lowers down, your sweat gland stop sweating, secreting sweat, right? They stop secreting sweat. They do not secrete sweat all the time. So that's why whenever your temperature goes down, you stop secreting it and you feel, and your temperature becomes normal, right? So here, temperature becomes normal, right? So negative feedback, it stops. Now here you can see the negative feedback. There is a change in the internal body temperature. CNS is detecting, right? It sends the message to the effector cells, that is the sweat gland in this case. And sweat glands start to secrete sweat. Now this sweat is when evaporated, it takes away the heat, right, from your skin, right, and temperature lower down, and then sweat gland stops secreting sweat and temperature becomes normal. So here the negative feedback done. Now this is from the end of sweat gland. Now our body does not have only one mechanism for making the temperature lower just with the help of sweat glands. It has 2 to 3 mechanism. This was the first thing, to lowering down the temperature. Now the second mechanism is basically vasodilation. Now, what is vasodilation? For in order to get to know that what is vasodilation, you must know the structure of the arterioles, the structure of the blood vessels that are present inside the skin. You need to study the structure, that how they are basically made, how they are located, and what is their structure, and how they are basically facilitating the increasing the heat loss or decreasing. Now see, this is the arteriole. As you know that in our blood vessel system, arteries are subdivided into arterioles, and then the arterioles are divided into capillaries, and the capillaries combine together to form venules, and then venules combine together to form veins, right? Veins and arteries are the bigger blood vessels, venule and arterioles are smaller than them, and then the capillaries are the smallest, where at which the the exchange of basically materials takes place, right? So as you can see that the structure of these arterioles or these blood vessels is quite different under the skin. As the common basically the common structure says that if this is the arteriole, right, then this is the capillary system, right, and this is the venule. Now this is the capillary system, right? Capillaries I'm drawing like this is the capillaries, capillary network, and if this is the arteriole, right, and this is the venule. But you can see that it has only one way. Arterioles are only opening in capillaries, and then the capillaries are opening in venule. But you can see the blood vessels in our skin, they have an alternative route. What is the alternative route? Okay, namaz break please. Okay. So we had been discussing that usually the structure of a blood vessel system is that arterioles, they make capillaries and then venules. But you can see that the blood vessels in our skin, they have an alternative route. They have an alternative route, right? This arterioles not only opening into the capillaries, but they have a direct route to the venules as well without going to the capillaries. Now these capillaries are very close to the skin, they are very near to the skin, right? So whenever the blood flows through these capillaries, now you can see that heat is basically transferred through conduction, convection, and radiation, right? So radiation is something that without the contact, when the heat is releasing from wherever it is more, and it is basically transferred to somewhere else without in being contact through air. This is the radiation. So actually our body radiate heats, right, and due from these capillaries, when the blood which is carrying the heat with it, so the cells are respiring, they are carrying the heat with them, right? So when the blood that flows under the skin, right, this blood basically carries the heat with it. Now this heat is basically radiated to the environment, right? So this blood flow has to be increased through these capillaries, right, in order to increase the heat flow through these capillaries. So what happens that whenever the temperature is increased, the this arteriole, now arteries have more muscular structure, they are more elastic, right? They can constrict and they can dilate. Constrict means they can contract, right, they become narrow, and dilate means they become broader, right, because they have muscles which can contract and relax. Due to their relaxation, right, the arterioles they become wide enough so that more blood can be passed through the capillaries. Now, whenever the more blood can be passed through these capillaries, so this heat would be basically radiate into the environment. So as you can see that in both pictures, this arteriole is usually not that much wide. As you can see, this venule is thinner. Venule is not that much wide, but this arteriole is dilating, right? So the due to the for the due to the dilation of this arteriole, right, more blood is able to flow to the capillaries, right? And due to this, and now actually what is actually happening, so the same mechanism where in vasodilation, right, the same thing, the temperature increasing, CNS is sending the message to the effectors. Now in case of these arterioles, right, what is the effectors are the muscles of the arterioles, right? And these muscles of the arterioles, they dilate, right? So the arterioles dilate. Now always remember, capillaries never dilate, veins never dilate. Only the arteries and arterioles, they are more muscular, they are more elastic, so that's why they can dilate, right? So the arterioles dilate, and then due to their dilation, more blood flow under the skin through capillaries, increasing the heat loss through skin, right? Now this is, and due to this, temperature goes down, right? Now these arterioles do not remain dilated uh, 24 by 7. Once the temperature goes down, becomes normal, temperature temp temperature reaches to set point, arterioles stop dilating, right? Arterioles stop dilating, and negative feedback stops. Negative feedback stops, right? Correction mechanism basically stops, because now the temperature is basically maintained. So, what is actually right? And this is the number two, right? So the first one was the sweating, right? I increase. The first mechanism was the sweating, and how sweating helps in lowering down the temperature, right? Increasing temperature, right? So sweating, and then the vasodilation, right? Okay. Next thing is, how are the hairs that are associated in lowering down the temperature. Now, as you know that air is a very good insulator, right? Sorry, yes, air is a very good insulator. So these hair, when they are erect, like when this is the skin, and if the hair are erect, right, so the air can trap in between them and it can insulate here, that the heat won't be lost here. So this is not required, because we have to increase the heat loss. So if the hair remain like this way, so the air can be circulated, right, and the heat can be radiated outside. For this purpose, what happens that now the third mechanism is basically, the third is hair remain flat. Now how they remain flat, right? They remain flat on the skin. How they remain flat, that if the temperature is increasing, CNS sends the message to the effector. Now in this case the effectors are hair erector muscle, hair erector muscles, and the hair erector muscles, they relax, right? And due to which they remain a hair follicle or hair remain flat on skin, allowing air to circulate, increasing temp increasing heat loss, right? So in this way basically when the hair remains flat, right, like this way which I have discussed on the skin, that if the hair remains flat like this way, so the air would be like the heat can be radiate easily, air would be circulating. But if they become erect, here air would stay here and air would not let the heat to go outside. So this actually happens in during the winters when we have low temperature. So like we have discussed the three mechanism for lowering down the temperature, right? Number one is sweating, number two is vasodilation, right, how the dilation of the arterioles allowing the movement of the blood more inside our skin, which is basically allows more blood flow, which will radiate more temperature, which will radiate more heat, and that's why we look more reddish, our skin looks more reddish during vasodilation, right? And the third one is hair remains flat. Now this is actually uh, right, this is actually this all these things are going to be opposite whenever we are feeling cold, right? So the when the temperature is low, now there are the three mechanism how to basically make the temperature to go up. The first we have discussed this part of that, that we have discussed that they lie flat against the skin, vasodilation, increase sweating, so there is a decrease in the body temperature, the normal body temperature. Now another thing that can happen, that there is a decrease in the body temperature during winters or due to any sickness or illness. Now the thermoreceptors in or in the hypothalamus and skin, they detect the change, and now what happens, the vasoconstriction, there is a shivering and the skin here erects, and which basically increases the body. So the three mechanisms are occurring, they are happening at the same time to make basically to increase the body temperature, so that we may our body temperature becomes normal, right, which was actually lower, which was detected by the body, and now it becomes normal, right? All right. Okay, now how vasoconstriction happen, what is vasoconstriction? Now we have discussed that uh, that during the vasodilation, this pathway is basically dilated, this pathway, this arteriole becomes wider so that more blood flows through these capillaries. But what happens whenever we have less temperature, when we have low temperature inside, so we have to prevent the heat loss actually. And in order to prevent the heat loss, we really would not, our body would not want the more blood flow underneath the skin, because if the more blood will flow, the more heat will be basically radiated outside of our body, so there will be more heat loss, and we have to prevent heat loss. So in order to prevent this heat loss, what happens, that this arteriole is constricted, this arterioles become narrow, and for making it narrow, basically what happens, the muscles contract, the arteries walls muscle, they contract, they make it narrow, the arteries become constricted. Now less blood is flowing in these capillaries, and more blood flows flowing through this alternative route. Now this alternative route is called the shunt vessel. Now this shunt vessel plays an important role, this is an alternative route for going blood from arteriole to venuole, from this part to this part. uh, Usually it has to go through the capillaries, but when the less blood is flowing through the capillaries, there is an alternative route which is called the shunt vessel, which is a direct route from the arteriole to the venuole. So the more blood is flowing through this, right, and the less blood is flowing through these capillaries. So if the less blood is flowing through the capillaries, skin surface capillaries, so there is be less heat loss, and due to which our body, our skin looks paler, our skin looks whiter, right? So that's why in winters, usually whenever we look at ourselves in the mirror, we feel that we look more paler, we look more whiter. We do not feel ourselves more reddish during the winters because less blood is flowing inside our skin, right? And more blood is flowing through this shunt vessel, right, which is actually makes the blood not to flow just underneath the skin and making us to appear paler, right? So this happens in the vasoconstriction. This is called vasoconstriction, right? Secondly, sweat glands, they do not sweat whenever if we are feeling cold. What is the shivering? The second mechanism that occurs whenever we are our temperature is low, right, for controlling the low temperature. The first was the vasoconstriction. The second is the shivering. Now our skeletal muscles, which are associated with the bones, they start to contract and relax involuntarily. I mean, you are not doing it, but they are doing by themselves. The skeletal muscle starts to contract and relax, and due to their contraction and relaxation, right, more respiration, and for the contraction more respiration is needed. And when more respiration is happening, then more heat will be produced, and this releasing of more heat will actually increasing the temperature. So whenever you are feeling cold, you start to shivers, right? And when you start to shiver, your body is actually generating heat. It is actually an indirect mechanism. Shivering means contraction of the skeletal muscles, right? And this is involuntary, excessive involuntary contraction of a skeletal muscle, right? And for contraction of muscles, right? More respiration, more respiration is required, right? Means more energy. Actually, I should not say more respiration. More energy is needed means more respiration. And when there is more respiration means more heat produce. And when more heat produce, so this extra heat will increase the body temperature. So actually, and whenever your temperature becomes normal, your shivering stops. You never shivers throughout the time. Your shivering stop as soon as the temperature becomes normal, gets to the set point. So heat will increase the body, shivering stop. So actually, shivering has this way. This has a mechanism on its back, that due to the contraction, the energy is required, respiration is happening, and heat is produced. This heat is actually responsible for making the temperature go up, right? And the third is here, become here on the skin, become erect. Now this is something that I have discussed earlier, that how it is happening, that this is your skin and these are the hair. In the summers they are like this, so the air is circulating. But when in the winters, right, they become erect. And how they are become erect? Your hair erector muscles contract, and this contraction of hair erector muscles make the hair to become erect, and due to their erection the air is trapped here. Now when the air is trapped here, this air will act as a basically insulating agent, right? This trapped air is basically act as a insulating agent, right? This is the trap air, and this trap air is will act as a insulating agent. So that's why, but usually we do not it doesn't have that much effect with us in human, but we can see other mammals like cats, like dogs, like wolves, other mammals, that whenever there is winter, their hair are all erected. They look very dangerous, they look very weird and strange in winters, but this is how their body is working to keep their temperature constant, to reduce the heat loss in winters, right? So it basically has a very significant role in other mammals, but in human it does not have that much significant role, right? So these are the three processes through which the temperature is going down. So I hope we have discussed all these, actually these three mechanism happening for making the temperature down, right, whenever the temperature is increasing. And these three mechanism, they are happening, and they are basically making the body to increase the temperature. And when the become the when the normal body temperature, it reaches to the normal body temperature, so the negative feedback stops. So this is how our body controls the temperature. Now I will be drawing a very summarized table, so that we have an idea that what is actually happening, right? So whenever we have hot and in cold weather, you could say that if the temperature high, no, I should say low temperature, but the temperature is low, and when the temperature is high, right? So what we are happening, sweating, right? We have a vasodilation, and we have our hair lie flat against skin, right? And in low temperature, one of the thing is adipose tissues as well. Adipose tissues also basically insulate the heat conduction. They basically reduce the heat loss. So adipose tissues reduce heat loss, okay. And then we have vasoconstriction, right? Our arterioles become constricted, so the blood doesn't flow near the surface of the skin, so less blood flow, less heat loss. And then our hair erector muscles, okay, hair become erect, right? And the fourth one is shivering, right? So these are the four mechanism, right? Three to four mechanism that occur and that make the temperature control, right? So this way it completes the temperature control with the help of the negative feedback, right? And we are done with our lecture today. So let's go to the syllabus content, that if I have basically covered all the syllabus content points. So identify on the diagram of the skin hair erector muscles, sweat glands, receptors, sensory neurons, blood vessels, and fatty tissues. Yes, we have discussed. We have also discussed the role of insulation in maintaining a constant internal body temperature in mammals. Insulation is basically carried out by the adipose tissues, and they have a very crucial role. We have also discussed the role of the hypothalamus, that basically it is a control center. It is that thermoreceptor cells it basically detects the stimulus in changing the temperature, either increasing or either decreasing, right? And it basically helps to maintain the constant internal body temperature. We have also discussing these processes: sweating, shivering, contraction of hair erector muscles, vasodilation and vasoconstriction of arterioles, supplying skin surface capillaries to increase or decrease temperature during thermoregulation in our body. So this completes our basically lecture for the homeostasis and temperature control. Inshallah ta'ala, in the next lecture we will be doing the blood glucose control. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.